viewers, welcome back to my channel. Today let us discuss about the fourth sim of the BSc Zoology, the chapter Cell Biology. So the introductory part. A cell. What is a cell? Structural and functional unit of an organism is called cell, and it was introduced by Nageli in 1885. Then the basic thing which is present in the cell is the cell membrane, or we can call it as plasma membrane. It was introduced in the year 1950 under the electron microscope in human RBCs first observed. The plasma membrane is semi-permeable, thin and delicate, very delicate, and the size is 75 angstrom of cell membrane. Then coming to the cell wall or the cell membrane, made up of bilayer called phosphate groups or phospholipids. The cell wall or the cell membrane is made up of the two things that are lipids and phosphates. Hence, it is bilayer made up of phosphate and lipids called phospholipids. Consider a cell and the cell membrane. The outermost covering is called the cell membrane, and the which is present inside the cell is the cytoplasm, and then the external environment filled with a fluid, more with the water. Then fluid mosaic model. It was introduced by Singer and Nicholson in 1992. He had described the whole bilayered phospholipids cell membrane with a structure as you can see on the screen. There are presence of integral proteins, peripheral proteins, lipids, proteins, hydrophilic and transprotein membrane, and carbohydrates and cholesterol. And then the proteins which are present on the cell membrane or the cell membrane composed of proteins and lipids. Proteins are considered as the heads and lipids are considered as the tail because of its structures. And the heads are the hydrophilic. Hydrophilic means water lovable, and the tails are water hateable. Hence, there is no transformation or transportation takes place. Because of this, the integral proteins and peripheral proteins are present for the transformation of ions and gases. Then come to the chemical composition. What are the chemicals present? Proteins, lipids, carbohydrates and cholesterols are the chemical compositions. Then the integral protein present in between the lipids helps in supportive. It was the supportive, like the humans have the vertebrae for supporting the structures. Hence, they are also have an integral protein as the supportive thing. Then the transmembrane protein helps in exchange of gases and ions, as I told before. There are two types of transport takes place: active transport and passive transport. Firstly, what is the active transport? Ion transport from the lower concentration to the higher concentration, and they require energy. If we are throwing a ball from the lower part to the higher part, hence it requires the energy. So this is the active transport. And the passive transport, opposite to the active transport, that is ion transfer takes place from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, from the high to the low, the fall. And then transfer takes place through peripheral proteins, tunnel proteins. Only ions and gases exchange take place. This is regarding to the proteins. And then come to the carbohydrates. Starch content attached to the phosphate part are carbohydrates, and it gives energy in the form of the ATP for transport. And the carbohydrates which are attached to the proteins are called glycolipids, and the carbohydrates which are attached to the trans proteins are called glycoproteins. And then the cholesterol. Here the diffusion. What is the diffusion means? From the higher level it goes to the lower level, or from the higher concentration to the lower concentration diffusion takes place. When the temperature is around 37 or to 40 degree, no functioning takes place in cholesterol. Why cholesterol is present? If temperature falls below the 50 degree or the 7 degree, phosphates and lipids get shrink, and when it gets damaged, death of the cell takes place. Because of this, cholesterols are like a fat. When we boil the oil loses. Like this, when the cell needs the cholesterol loses, or it become the liquid or oily type. Hence it helps and it protects cells from shrinkage during low temperature. The main function of the cholesterol is preventing cell from the shrinkage. Shrinkage mean when you drink all the drink in the fruity, the packet shrinks, the packet become flat. Like that, shrinkage takes place. Then the fluid mosaic model. What do you mean by the fluid mosaic model? Firstly, fluid means the watery content which is present in the cell or outside the cell is called fluid. Hence it helps in the cell to the motility, means movement. Protein or molecules distributed on cell membrane called mosaic. Then uniport, symport takes place. What is uniport? One molecule movement from out to inside. One molecule or the one ion moves from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell is called uniport. And what is the symport? Sodium ions are the present around or outside the cell, which come inside the cell, which has to come inside the cell. Here the glucose is present. That is the problem, is that the glucose cannot enters the cell singly, so it combines with the sodium, and the two molecules combine together and movement takes place from the outside to inside is called the symport. And then the antiport. What is the antiport? The movement of molecules or the ions from the outside to inside and the inside to outside. The movement of ions takes place simultaneously. One moves from the inside to outside and another moves from the outside to inside. This is called the antiport. For simply two molecules at one time moves out and inside, this condition is called antiport. The last is function of cell membrane. What is the function of cell membrane? As we know before, it gives protection, and it gives protection against bacteria and protects from injuries and protect from foreign bodies, and helps in transportation, and it helps in separating the cytoplasm and the cell membrane. So thank you for watching my video. Please do share, like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.